back to another mussel fishing film. Today we are on the shore. We've had some really bad weather in the last few weeks, and unfortunately the only bit of fishing we're going to be doing is shore fishing. I'm not very good at shore fishing, I'm sure you're aware of that. I don't do enough of it to learn the art really. I'm not too bad, you know, I can probably chuck a lead 100 yards, you know, I can do a bait quite well, I know what rigs to do, but shore fishing is very much determined by what tides you go and what locations you go. If you know where to go, where the tide is right and the weather's right, you catch. And if you're in the wrong place, you're in the wrong place, you're not going to catch. So obviously you might get a lucky fish, but generally speaking, with the shore fishing, you need to know the location, the tide and the weather, all those three things, and they need to all match up for it to be a good session. I've got no idea whether Langley Point on a northerly wind after a blow is any good, but hey, we're going to give it a go. I've cast 2 rods out there already. I've got my dad with me today. One rig is just a little Dover sole rig. We've just got a little bit of a third of a lugworm on there, just scratching around, seeing what we can find. And then the other rig, we've got a big 8 foot long each side pulley rig as well. Just with a slightly bigger bait, bit of squid, bit of bluey, to see if we can pick up a slightly bigger species. Things we might get today, and this is a big might. Dover sole, there's a couple of codling around, there's also some bass around, possibly some small eels maybe, and maybe some thornback rays. They're probably the 5 species that I would say are most likely to be beached today. Definitely not all 5, but if we can get 1 or 2 and get sort of 2 or 3 fish, I'd be quite happy. High tide's at 12 o'clock, it's about 8 o'clock now, so we're just waiting for that tide to start coming in a bit. Normally it fishes best 2.5 hours before high, 2.5 hours down, so we're a little bit early, but I like to come here, set up, get the rods out, and be here for when hopefully a little bit of action kicks off. I'll show you the rigs a little bit later on, but for now, wish me luck, and let's hope that rod goes off shortly. Alright, well, first species on the scratching rig then. Very small, very, very small little pouting. Absolutely nailed with a Ultra Z hook there in size 1.0. Very, very, very small hook. But yeah, a little pouting. You can see there from the little, whatever you want to call it. Funny little fish, aren't they? Very, very funny little fish. But yeah, one little pouting. So we haven't blanked. We'll get that one back, and I'll show you the rig we're using for hopefully a Dover sole. Let's go and get him back. Right, well, fish number 2. This was on the pulley rig I was telling you about. A very, very small little dogfish, and that was just caught on a 3.0 Limitless meat hook, just with a bit of squid and bluey wraps. That's on that 8 foot pulley rig I was telling you about. Just a very, very small dogfish. I think there's a bit too much light there, to be honest. So let me just try and drop the light so you can see him a bit. There you go, that might be a bit better for you. Hopefully. Yeah, just a little doggy. Good start. So we've had 2 wound in and 2 fish. Yeah, and both rigs have caught us fish, so that's really good. So I'm going to go and pop him back, and then I'll show you the rig we're using very shortly. It's very simple, and I'm sure you know what a pulley rig looks like, but for those of you that don't, I'll walk through it very quickly. Right then, so the pulley rig, let's talk you through it quickly. Got a bit of weed on there, we'll just clear that off. There's not too much weed, but there is a little bit this evening. Should clear out as the tide pushes. So this is at the end of our rod tip, just a little clip there. Don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. The rig, you've got a pulley bead here. Sorry, I haven't got my good camera, it's a GoPro 12, I don't know how much it's picking it up, but you've got a pulley clip at the top, which we clip our main line clip onto. One side of that goes down to our hook trace, which is down here. So it goes pulley bead, a swivel, and then this is your trace line, and this is about 6 foot. And I've just got a single Frio meat hook. Now that bait isn't too bad. What I am going to do is I'm going to freshen it up. So I've got a little bit of extra bluey, which I'm just going to pop on the hook. And I've got a little bit of squid, which I'm just going to pop there as well. Bit of bait elastic. And all we're going to do is we're going to bind those baits together like so. Yeah, I don't change the bait every single time if it still looks quite good, even if the fish has had it. What I will do is just add a little bit of fresh bait. That way I get normally 1 extra cast off of a singular bait. Obviously it's totally up to you whether you do that. I know some people would rather put out a brand new fresh bait, but today we're not going to. And also it's not such a good part of the tide, so I'm sort of trying to save as much bait as I can for that good part of the tide. Now the important part is your hook's protruding. So as you can see there, about the size of my little finger, bit of bluey and a little bit of squid. So that's on the hook side. And then back up to that pulley, the other side. So obviously that pulley's sliding through that bit of line there. Follow this line down, we've got our lead clip. And we've just got a lead clip on the end. That's just a limitless one there. It doesn't matter which one you use, that's just what I've got on there. Just a bead to protect the knot. And then we've got an impact weight, which we obviously connect the hook to as we cast. That is all we're doing. It's quite a long pulley rig, that one. It's about 8 foot. Right, it's a big tide as well. That's why we're using a big pulley. Right, I'm gonna go and cast this one out and see what we can get. I'll show you that sole rig a bit later on as well. Oh. Well, we've wound in for the 3rd time, and it's the 3rd fish. And again, on the little scratching rig, we're just leaving it out for 20 minutes, winding in, and we've got a fish on. Very, very small, little pouting. Again, nailed with them ultra hooks. I think they're ultra Z hooks. Slightly offset, but there we go. Another little pouting. Just caught on the little scratching rig. I'm going to save this rig for you now, and we're going to talk through it, because there's a couple of things that I've done which might be making all the difference in getting us a few extra fish. Very simple rig, but there's just a few things that I've done which might be good. So yeah, just a little pouting. If the pouting are out there, then the congers should be, the rays should be, the bass should be. We're clearly on a little bit of reef or rock out there. Hopefully as the tide comes in, we can continue casting to where we need to be and to where these little bait fish are. So, cool little fish, we'll get it back. Okay, right, let's discuss my scratching rig then, and what I've done. We've got 50 pounds fluorocarbon. It's basically a 1 up, 1 down type style rig. But there's a couple of things that I've done. I've made the trace lengths really quite short. The snoods are quite short. They're about 6 inches, 7 inches. And what I've done is I've added a crimp about 2.5 inches above the hook. Now that crimp there basically just adds a little bit of weight to this snood and make sure it's settled on the bottom and it's not rolling up. And I've done the exact same on this snood down here. I've just put a crimp about 2 inches above the hook to nail the bait to the bottom. Now that was mostly because I wanted to make sure I was catching the sole if they were there, but inadvertently it's catching me quite a few little fish. Obviously I might have put out one of my old rigs and I might have caught them as well, but I've got small hooks, little 1.0 Ultra Z's, and yeah, they're very, very small. They're like a size, you know, they are really small hooks, those little 1.0 Ultra Z's. Fantastic little hooks. Those and the Specialist Chinos are my sort of go-to scratching hooks. Yeah, small hooks do not mean small fish. These hooks will hold a ray. I've had rays on these before as well. Really strong hooks, but they're small, and I quite like small hooks, and I quite like having a scratching rig out there, especially when I've not been fishing very much from the shore. it's nice to put a scratching rig out to see what fish are out there. Baiting wise today, we're using very small bits of lugworm. So that's a whole lug. We're using about 1/3 of a lug. Dover sole love old sticky frozen lug, so if you've got some old sticky frozen lug, the sole, use it. So we're using 1/3 of a worm. I'm just feeding that up just so it's just over the crimp or near it. And what I'm doing is I'm just adding a little bit of squid. Not a lot of squid, just a little bit, just to tip off the end. When I say a little bit, guys, they're tiny little bits, top of my finger, real small bits. A couple of things, I put the squid on there. One, to keep the lugworm on, it acts as like a bait stop, and two, I think it just adds a little bit of attraction in the water, a little bit of flutter. And if there's a little conger out there or a little ray, they're probably more likely to take a fish bait than a lug bait. But those are my 2 worms set up. So let's go and give it a good thump and see what we can bring. Sorry you've not got lots of lovely shots of me casting and nice scenery shots. Obviously middle of the night down at Langley Point Beach is a little bit tricky to make a cinematic film. So hopefully you're enjoying this style of fishing. It's a bit different, and obviously it's a nighttime session. So that's the rig and it's ready to go. Right, well that's the end of the session. Very short video, probably not a very interesting video, but all sessions don't always go red leather, unfortunately. Sometimes they are difficult. I thought it was going to be a bit better. We had 2 pouting, 1 dogfish, and that was it. I thought we were going to get a few more fish. Unfortunately we didn't. It is what it is. We shall try again another time, probably when I've seen some more reports of some fish come up, because actually I haven't seen many fish come up in the last sort of few weeks, so it is what it is. Have a good week, thanks for watching and take care.